The War Council chamber of the Vector Supremacy fell silent as Commander Throk slammed his 6 clawed appendages against the tactical display. The holographic readout flickered, showing the same impossible data for the 3rd time in the last rotation. 17 of their most elite hunter packs decimated, not defeated in honorable combat, not outmaneuvered by superior technology, decimated by what the scouts were calling, and Throk could barely form the words without his throat sacs inflating with disgust. A family camping trip. "Repeat the surveillance data," Throk growled, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Lieutenant Vash, who had seen 40 cycles of conquest and never once shown fear, hesitated. Her scales had turned that peculiar shade of gray that indicated extreme discomfort. "Commander, perhaps we should review the written reports first. The visual documentation is, shall we say, difficult to process. I did not claw my way to command by avoiding difficult truths. Play it." The hologram shifted, revealing a standard Class 7 planet. Lush vegetation, abundant water sources, gravity 0.98 standard. The kind of world the Vector had absorbed into their empire 300 times before. The kind of world that should have surrendered within a solar rotation after the hunter packs landed. The feed zoomed toward a clearing beside a tributary of some forgettable river. A human family, classification code Terran, had erected one of their bizarre temporary shelters. 3 adults, 2 juveniles. Standard defensive perimeter? None. Energy shields? Absent. Plasma barriers? Not even a basic model. Just fabric structures and a controlled combustion pit for food preparation. Throk felt his primary brain register confusion while his secondary brain handled the growing sense of unease. "This is what destroyed Hunter Pack Vortan?" "Keep watching, sir." The smallest human juvenile emerged from the fabric structure. Female, approximately 4 solar cycles old based on size ratio analysis. She wore some sort of primitive thermal covering colored in bright, aggressive patterns. Flowers. The covering had images of flowers on it. Throk's tactical assessment subroutines immediately flagged this as psychological warfare. No apex predator would advertise their presence with such vibrant displays unless they possessed overwhelming force. The juvenile surveyed the area with those unnervingly forward-facing eyes all humans possessed. Then, and Throk would later require 3 cycles of meditation to process this fully, she smiled. Not the baring of fangs before combat. Not the fear grimace of prey accepting death. An actual expression of joy. "What is she? No, I do not want to know yet. Continue." The juvenile began moving toward the forest edge, her primitive bipedal locomotion surprisingly swift. The adult female human noticed, rose from her seated position, and called out. The universal translator struggled with the phrase, finally settling on. "Mira, honey, do not wander too far. Your father and I can see you from here, okay?" Honey. They had terms of endearment derived from insect secretions. Throk filed that away for the xenopsychology team to obsess over. Young Mira, apparently satisfied with this arrangement, continued her exploration of the forest edge. She moved with the casual confidence of a being that had never known true predation. Her small hands touched everything, bark, leaves, fungal growths that the database identified as moderately toxic. She consumed a bright red fruit directly from a low growth without testing it first. The fruit was, according to the scrolling analysis, loaded with compounds that would cause respiratory failure in 60% of known species. The child hummed a melody while she explored. Hummed, as if the forest contained nothing that could enter existence in seconds. "Where is Hunter Pack Vortan in this timeline?" Throk demanded. Approaching from Grid 7, they detected the humans 18 minutes prior and had been observing, attempting to understand the defensive capabilities before striking. The feed split, showing armored vector warriors moving through the undergrowth with practiced precision. 12 members, each standing 2 full standard heights, each armed with plasma claws and neural disruptors, each trained from spawning in the sacred arts of the hunt. They had surrounded the human camp. Standard pack formation, cutting off all escape vectors. The adult humans remained oblivious, engaging in conversation while preparing food over the combustion pit. The tactical advantage was absolute. That is when everything stopped making sense. A sound emerged from deeper in the forest. Low, rumbling, aggressive. The feed's audio analysis labeled it as a threat vocalization. Mira stopped humming. She turned her small head toward the sound source, her expression shifting to what the vector database weakly termed curiosity. "Computer, identify the organism producing that sound," Throk commanded. "Scanning, match found. Species designation Mellivora capensis, common designation honey badger, threat assessment moderate, known for disproportionate aggression relative to body mass. Thick skin provides resistance to most natural weapons. Reputation among Terran fauna for, and I am reading directly from the human data networks here, not giving a single care about anything." Throk blinked all three of his eyes in sequence. "Elaborate on that final designation." "The human internet contains 17,000 documented cases of Mellivora capensis, engaging opponents significantly larger than itself. Victory ratio surprisingly favorable. The species appears to operate on a principle of overwhelming audacity rather than tactical assessment. They have been observed attempting to predate upon creatures 50 times their mass." Through the holographic feed, the honey badger emerged from the undergrowth. It was, objectively speaking, not impressive. Perhaps 3/4 of a standard length, low to the ground, with a distinctive stripe pattern. Its eyes locked onto young Mira. Hunter Pack Vortan saw this too. Pack leader Grenz made the tactical decision to hold position, waiting to see how the humans would respond to an actual threat before revealing themselves. It was sound strategy. Watch the prey's defensive capabilities against natural predation before engaging. The honey badger approached Mira with that peculiar rolling gait its species employed. The child should have fled. Every instinct evolution had coded into survival-oriented species should have triggered a retreat response. Mira squealed with delight. "No," Throk said flatly. "No, she did not just... Keep watching, Commander." The child dropped to her knees, which brought her closer to the ground and somehow made her more vulnerable, and extended her small arms toward the honey badger. The creature, which should have recognized an easy meal, stopped. Its small eyes, positioned for maximum predatory efficiency, fixed on the child. "Here, sweet thing," Mira said, her voice carrying that particular frequency human juveniles produce that apparently bypassed all logical thought processes. "Are you lost? Do you need a friend?" The honey badger took another step forward. Its muscles tensed. Hunter Pack Vortan tensed as well, plasma claws humming to life. If the beast struck, they would see how humans responded to injury of their young. Valuable intelligence. Mira reached out and, with the casual disregard for self-preservation that apparently characterized her entire species, placed her small hand directly on the honey badger's head. The honey badger, apex survivor of Africa's unforgiving ecosystems, devourer of venomous snakes, fighter of lions, creature of legend and terror among those who knew better, leaned into her touch. "You are so soft," Mira declared, which was objectively false according to every biological scan. "Do you want to come meet my family?" The honey badger made a sound. Not a growl. Not a threat display. The closest translation the computer could provide was contentment. Throk felt his secondary brain shut down temporarily to reboot. Mira stood, or rather attempted to stand, while maintaining contact with the honey badger. The creature moved with her, walking alongside with the casual ease of something that had chosen to be there. They moved together back toward the camp, the child chattering constantly. "I am going to name you Stripes because you have a pretty stripe and I think we will be best friends. And maybe you can meet Mr. Whiskers, who is my cat at home. Except he did not come camping because Dad said camping is not for cats, but I think camping is for everyone. Do you like camping? I like camping. We roast marshmallows, which are very good and sweet, and maybe you would like marshmallows." The continuous verbal output appeared to require no response from the honey badger, who simply walked beside her. The race entered the clearing. The adult female human looked up from her food preparation, saw her daughter, saw the honey badger, and did something that would haunt Throk's analysis sessions for months to come. She smiled. "Oh, Mira, you made a friend. Marcus, come look at this." The adult male human, Marcus, emerged from examining their primitive transport vehicle. He observed his offspring walking beside a wild predator. His response, "Huh, would you look at that? Is that a honey badger?" "I think so," the female responded, her tone suggesting they were discussing weather patterns rather than their juvenile consorting with dangerous fauna. "They are rare to see in the daytime. What a treat!" "His name is Stripes," Mira announced proudly. "Can we keep him?" "Sweetie, Stripes is a wild animal," Marcus said, approaching slowly. Throk expected the honey badger to react to the larger human's approach with aggression. Instead, the creature simply sat down next to Mira. "He has his own home in the forest, but we can certainly be friends while we are camping here." The adult female, identified by records as Elena, retrieved a container from their supply storage. "Mira, why do you not offer Stripes some of those grapes? I bet he has never had grapes before." Mira accepted the container with both hands, nearly losing her grip, which would have been fatal if the honey badger had any sense of self-preservation or interest in easy prey. Instead, it watched with what could only be described as patience as she sat down and opened the container. "Here, Stripes," she said, holding out a single grape between her tiny fingers. "This is a grape. Grapes are very good. Mommy packed them special." The honey badger, creature of violence and chaos, leaned forward and gently took the grape from her fingers. It chewed thoughtfully. Hunter Pack Vortan watched from their concealed positions. Throk could see Grenz's confusion in the way his thermal signature spiked. The pack leader had fought across 7 systems. He had brought down prey species ranging from the armored Kaluth to the phase-shifting Quen. He was watching a human juvenile hand feed a wild predator, and his entire tactical worldview was visibly collapsing. "Commander," Vash said quietly, "this continues for 17 more minutes. The child feeds the honey badger. The family eats their meal. The oldest juvenile, identified as Corey, aged 9 solar cycles, attempts to approach." "Show me." The feed jumped forward. The older human juvenile, male, moved toward Mira and Stripes with visible caution. Good survival instinct. At least one of them had it. "Mira, you should not get too close to—" Stripes turned his head toward Corey. The movement was economical, precise. A clear statement. The juvenile stopped. "Stripes is my friend," Mira announced. "You have to be nice or he will not like you." "Mira, that thing could hurt you," Corey protested, looking to his parents for support. Marcus set down his primitive eating utensil. "Corey, I know it seems dangerous, but look at how calm Stripes is. Animals can sense intention. Mira is being gentle and respectful, so Stripes is comfortable. If you want to meet him, you need to be calm too." This was insane. This was counter to every known principle of predator and prey interaction. This was... "Jump to the arrival of Hunter Pack Vortan," Throk commanded. The feed shifted. Night had fallen. The humans had activated portable light sources around their camp, because apparently advertising your position to every predator within visual range was standard procedure for them. The family sat around their combustion pit, which now served no purpose except to further broadcast their location with thermal signatures. Mira had fallen asleep against her father's side. Curled up next to her, head resting on her small legs, was Stripes the honey badger. Hunter Pack Vortan moved into final attack positions. This was it. The moment they would spring the trap, activate their weapons, and these oblivious humans would finally understand they were prey. Grenz stepped into the light perimeter. Every human head turned toward him. 2.5 standard heights of armored predator, plasma claws glowing with barely contained energy, neural disruptor humming its song of approaching unconsciousness. Elena screamed. Marcus grabbed a primitive tool, something designed for cutting wood. Corey scrambled backward. Standard prey responses. Finally, something made sense. Mira woke up. She blinked sleep from her eyes, focusing on Grenz with the slow awareness of a juvenile pulled from rest. And Stripes stood up. The honey badger positioned himself between Mira and Grenz. His body language shifted into something Throk recognized instantly. Combat posture. The creature, which massed perhaps 7 kilograms, looked at 2.5 standard heights of armored warrior and made a sound that the translator rendered as, "Try it and find out." Grenz laughed. The sound echoed through the forest, the confident vocalization of a predator who had faced down creatures far more impressive than an overconfident mustelid. He raised his plasma claws. Stripes charged. What happened next took 1.7 seconds but would require 3 full rotations of analysis to fully comprehend. The honey badger closed the distance before Grenz could track his movement. The Vector Warrior's neural disruptor fired, the blast passing through space the honey badger no longer occupied. Stripes reached Grenz's lower leg, the only part not covered by armor plating, and bit down. The scream that emerged from Grenz was not the controlled battle cry of a warrior. It was the primal shriek of something that had just learned an important lesson about confidence versus capability. Stripes did not let go. His jaw pressure, according to the feed's biological analysis, exceeded anything his body mass should have produced. His claws found purchase in the seams of Grenz's armor. He twisted, pulled, and used the warrior's own mass against him. Grenz fell. 2.5 standard heights of trained killer dropped like a training dummy while a 7-kilogram ball of fury and poor life choices rode him down. The rest of Hunter Pack Vortan erupted from their positions. 11 warriors converged on the camp, plasma claws active, neural disruptors singing. Marcus threw himself over Mira and Corey. Elena grabbed the wood-cutting tool and stood her ground, which was admirably stupid. The family was seconds from being... 3 more honey badgers burst from the forest. "Computer," Throk said slowly. "Where did 3 additional Mellivora capensis originate?" Scanning previous footage. They appear to have been in the vicinity for approximately 2 hours, maintaining distance from the human camp. The biometric data suggests a family unit. 2 adults, 1 subadult. Probability assessment indicates Stripes is the juvenile of this family group. The adult honey badgers, each larger and somehow even more confident than Stripes, assessed the situation with the practiced efficiency of special operations units. The largest, probably the male, made a sound that translated roughly to, "New plan, protect the tiny human." They moved as a coordinated unit. The male hit the nearest Vector Warrior at knee level. The female went for another's throat seam. The subadult, in a display of tactical innovation that Throk had to respect, climbed a warrior's back and began systematically disassembling his helmet. Chaos erupted, and Throk used that word despite his earlier prohibition because there was no other term adequate to describe 11 trained warriors trying to fight 4 honey badgers while not accidentally harming the humans they had intended to capture. Grenz finally dislodged Stripes by slamming his leg against a tree, which cost him a significant section of his lower appendage but freed him to rejoin the fight. The pack leader assessed the situation with commendable speed. They needed to retreat and regroup. He signaled the withdrawal. Hunter Pack Vortan, for the first time in their collective service, ran away from a camping family and 4 Earth mammals that should not have presented any significant tactical challenge. The honey badgers pursued them for exactly 100 meters into the forest before stopping. They returned to the camp as a unit, checking the perimeter with professional thoroughness. The humans had not moved. Marcos still covered his children. Elena still held her inadequate weapon. They watched the honey badgers complete their security sweep. The large male approached Marcus slowly. The human tensed. The honey badger sat down, looked at the family, and made a sound that the translator struggled with before settling on. "You are welcome, I suppose." Then all 4 honey badgers simply walked back into the forest, Stripes pausing only to look back at Mira one final time. The feed ended. The War Council chamber remained silent for a full rotation. Throk processed the data through every analytical framework available to him. None of it made sense. The honey badgers had defended humans. The humans had befriended the honey badgers. Hunter Pack Vortan, elite warriors of the supremacy, had been routed by creatures that massed less than their armor plating. Explanations, Throk finally demanded. Vash pulled up additional data streams. Commander, we have been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding of humans. We assessed their capabilities based on their technology, their military formations, their recorded conflicts. We ignored, what is the term their databases use, the vibes. The what? Vibes, sir. It appears humans possess an ability to form cross-species bonds that transcend logical assessment. They have domesticated hundreds of species on their world. They maintain companion animals that serve no productive purpose except, and I quote from their networks, being cute and providing emotional support. They feed wild animals. They rescue animals in danger. They cry at fictional stories about animals dying. Throk felt his primary brain throb. And the Malivra capensis? Honey badgers, sir, are known on Earth as creatures that do not care about conventional threat assessment. They fight anything, survive everything, and operate on principles that make sense only to them. The human child somehow communicated with one on a level that made the honey badger choose to protect her. When his family unit detected a threat to a being their offspring had bonded with, they responded as any pack would. But we are superior predators. We have technology, training, generations of conquest. Yes, sir. And humans have. Checking the data. TikTok videos of people befriending bears, wolves, even venomous snakes. They have a domesticated predator called a dog that they selectively bred from wolves over thousands of generations specifically to love them unconditionally. They cry when their dogs die. They hold funerals. They get images of their pets permanently inscribed on their skin. They are, and I mean this with full tactical assessment, completely insane about animals. Throk slumped in his command chair. The other 16 hunter packs? Similar encounters. Pack Thexan encountered a human child who had befriended a pack of wolves. Pack Sorvin met a family with 6 large dogs who interpreted the vector as threats to their humans. Pack Krenth, and this one is particularly embarrassing, was chased away by a human female protecting baby ducks. Just baby ducks, sir. She did not even have a weapon. She just, the transcript says, was not having it. Not having it, Throk repeated. We have been driven from a Class 7 planet because humans were not having it. Essentially, yes, Commander. Throk looked at the tactical display showing the 17 failed missions. He thought about the resources invested, the intelligence gathered, the careful planning. He thought about a 4-cycle, old human child sharing grapes with a honey badger. He thought about his entire career built on understanding predation, hierarchy, and force dynamics. Pull all hunter packs from Earth orbit, he said quietly. Classify the humans as a level 9 threat. Sir, level 9 is reserved for species with planet-killing technology, and I am aware of the classifications, Lieutenant. I'm also aware that we just watched something impossible happen. If humans can befriend creatures that should view them as prey or competitors, if they can inspire loyalty in species with no logical reason to provide it, if they can survive by making everything around them care about their continued survival, then they are more dangerous than any weapon system we have encountered. Throk pulled up the final frame of the recording. Young Mira, hugging her father while Stripes and his family disappeared into the forest. The joy on her small face, the protective stance of creatures that should not have cared. Recommend all Vector vessels maintain a minimum of 5 light cycles from any system containing humans. Throk continued. Further recommend we send diplomatic envoys immediately. If we cannot conquer them, and clearly we cannot, then we need them as allies before they befriend something truly apocalyptic. Sir, what could be more apocalyptic than honey badgers? Throk pulled up Earth's database of fauna. His eyes scanned past the familiar, dogs, cats, horses, until they reached the truly incomprehensible. Dolphins with their advanced intelligence, elephants with their long memories, octopi with their problem-solving abilities, crows that held grudges and passed them to their offspring. And humans had positive relationships with all of them. Everything, Lieutenant. The answer is everything. If humans can befriend honey badgers by sharing fruit, what happens when they decide to befriend something with actual combat capabilities? As if summoned by his words, an alert flashed across the display. New intelligence from Earth. A research facility in Russia where humans were attempting to domesticate foxes. Another in Japan where they maintained cafes where people could socialize with owls. A viral video, that term again, of a human swimming with great white sharks. Swimming with sharks. On purpose. Retreat order confirmed and transmitted, Commander, Vash reported. All packs withdrawing to safe distance. Throk nodded slowly. The Vector supremacy had conquered 700 systems. They had defeated enemies of every classification. But they had never encountered anything like humanity's inexplicable ability to look at dangerous creatures and think, friend. And somewhere on Earth, unaware that she had just altered the course of galactic politics, a 4-cycle-old child named Mira was probably already telling her family about the next animal she wanted to befriend. The supremacy could not afford to find out what that might be. 3 solar rotations passed before. Throk received the intelligence report that made his throat sacs deflate in resignation. The diplomatic envoy he had sent to Earth, carefully selected for their non-threatening appearance and extensive xenopsychology training, had made contact with human authorities. The mission parameters were simple. Establish communication, assess alliance potential, avoid mentioning the camping incident. Ambassador Kelth had failed spectacularly at that final parameter. Commander, Kelth's voice crackled through the quantum communication array, and Throk could hear something in the background that sounded disturbingly like human laughter. We have a situation that requires immediate guidance. Throk activated the visual feed. Kelth stood in what appeared to be a human governmental facility, specifically the United Nations building in the territory called New York. Surrounding the ambassador were 24 human diplomats, all displaying that peculiar facial expression humans use to indicate amusement. Behind them, displayed on a massive screen, was footage of Hunter Pack Vortan fleeing from the honey badgers. Explain, Throk said flatly. Well, Commander, it appears humans have extensive surveillance satellite networks. They documented our Hunter Pack deployments, all 17 of them. The footage has been, I am reading the translation correctly, going viral on something called social media. Current view count is approaching 400 million. Throk felt both his brains attempt to process this simultaneously, which created a disorienting sensation. They watched us fail and decided to broadcast it for entertainment? Not exactly entertainment, sir. More like, and I am quoting the human liaison officer here, the best comedy special of the decade. There are already animated versions with added music. Someone created a remix. The honey badger segment has been turned into what they call memes. I do not fully understand that term, but apparently it is significant. One of the human diplomats stepped forward. Female. Approximately 40 solar cycles based on appearance, wearing formal attire and an expression of barely contained mirth. Commander Throk, I presume? I am Secretary General Morrison. Before we proceed with diplomatic negotiations, I need to address something important. Speak, Throk managed. Did your elite military units really get chased away by Mira Patterson and her accidental honey badger bodyguards? The other humans in the room lost their composure entirely. Several made sounds the translator labeled as giggling. One male in the back was wiping moisture from his eyes. Throk understood intellectually that humans leaked salt water when experiencing strong emotions, but the practical application was disturbing. Our hunter packs made tactical assessments based on unexpected variables, Throk said, trying to maintain some dignity. You got beaten up by a 4-year-old's new best friend, Morrison said, her own mouth twitching. Commander, I mean this with all due respect to your military traditions, But that is the funniest thing that has happened in international relations since the Great Emu War. The what war? Long story. Involves Australia and birds. We lost. The point is, Commander, you have fundamentally misunderstood how humans operate. We do not conquer through force alone. We conquer through persistence, adaptability, and making friends with literally anything that will tolerate us. Kelth shifted uncomfortably. The Secretary General has been quite forthcoming about human capabilities, Commander. Perhaps too forthcoming. Morrison pulled up a holographic display that would have impressed Throk if he was not currently trying to process the complete dissolution of his military credibility. The display showed graphs, charts, and what appeared to be a timeline stretching back thousands of Earth cycles. This, Morrison said, gesturing to the timeline, is human domestication history. 15,000 cycles ago, we befriended wolves. They became dogs. We have since befriended cats, who do not even particularly like us, but tolerate our presence. We have befriended horses, cattle, chickens, pigs, goats, sheep, rabbits, ferrets, and approximately 400 other species. She zoomed in on a particular section. We have semi-domesticated relationships with dolphins who help us fish, elephants who work alongside us in some regions, falcons we train for hunting. We have people who keep venomous snakes as companions. We have individuals who swim with whales. Someone in Florida keeps an alligator as an emotional support animal, which is legally questionable but emotionally valid according to the owner. This proves nothing except your species has poor survival instincts, Throk protested. Commander, we are the only species on our planet that domesticated other species. Every other animal either avoids us or has adapted to live near us for mutual benefit. We turned apex predators into lapdogs. We made obligate carnivores accept chin scratches as payment for hunting services. We convinced prey animals that giving us their milk and eggs was preferable to freedom. We are very, very good at making things care about us. Another human stepped forward. Male, younger, with an identification badge labeling him as Dr. Park, xenobiology specialist. Commander, may I offer a scientific perspective? Nothing can make this worse, Throk muttered. Humans evolved as persistence hunters and social cooperators. Our survival strategy was never about being the strongest or fastest. It was about outlasting everything else and making alliances with whatever provided advantage. We threw rocks at mammoths until they got tired. We followed prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We domesticated wolves by feeding them scraps until they decided we were part of their pack. We are the universe's most annoying species because we simply do not quit. Morrison nodded. Which brings us to the honey badger situation. Mira Patterson did not befriend Stripes through any special ability. She did it by being a human child, which means she approached a dangerous animal with zero fear and complete confidence that friendship was possible. And honey badgers, which share our complete disregard for conventional threat assessment, recognized a kindred spirit. That is speculation, Throk said weakly. Commander, we have footage of the adult honey badgers returning to check on Mira's family every night for the remainder of their camping trip. Stripes brought them a dead rabbit on the second night. That is gift-giving behavior. That is social bonding. A wild animal decided a human child was worth protecting because she shared her grapes. The display shifted to new footage. The Patterson family still camping with 4 honey badgers sleeping around their tent perimeter. Young Mira had apparently named all of them: Stripes, Patches, Bandit, and Princess. The largest male honey badger was called Princess. The translator provided a note that this was considered humorous. Furthermore, Dr. Park continued, clearly enjoying himself, we have documented cases of wild animals seeking out humans for help. Dolphins lead us to drowning swimmers. Dogs adopt abandoned kittens. Crows bring gifts to humans who feed them. A humpback whale once protected a human diver from a tiger shark. Animals understand, on some level, that humans are the species you want on your side when things get dangerous. Throk pulled up his own intelligence files. Reports from surveillance of Earth. He had dismissed much of it as statistical anomalies, but now patterns emerged with horrifying clarity. a human farmer in India who had befriended a wild leopard that killed livestock raiders, a woman in Alaska who lived peacefully with a grizzly bear family, an entire village in Africa that had a mutual protection agreement with a troop of baboons. You weaponize friendship, Throk said slowly. We prefer to think of it as aggressive diplomacy, Morrison replied. Commander, your hunter packs failed because they approached Earth as a conquest target. We are not conquered. We are befriended, allied with, or occasionally annoyed into cooperation. Your warriors threatened a human child while she was bonding with a local species. The natural result was cross-species defensive coordination. Kelth spoke up again. Commander, the humans have offered us a formal alliance. They want to exchange cultural information, establish trade agreements, and provide consultation services for first contact scenarios with other species. They believe our military structure combined with their diplomatic approach would be highly effective. They want to teach us to make friends with our enemies, Throk translated. More or less, yes, sir. Throk looked at the screen showing Mira Patterson, age 4 solar cycles, sleeping peacefully while surrounded by honey badgers that should have eaten her. He thought about his military career, built on strength and dominance. He thought about 17 failed missions. What are the terms? Morrison smiled. That expression still unsettled Throk. Showing teeth was a threat display in 70% of known species, but humans used it to indicate pleasure. Simple. You stop trying to invade planets without understanding their social structures first. We provide expertise on species interaction, diplomacy, and what we call soft power. You provide military support for mutual defense and help us explore deeper space. Also, you have to watch a mandatory sensitivity training video about approaching children and animals. That last term seems unnecessary. Commander, your soldiers got their armored posteriors handed to them by wildlife because nobody taught them that humans see baby anything as precious and worth protecting. The training video is non-negotiable. Throk sighed, a sound that came out as a whistling deflation of his air sacs. Transmit the Alliance documents. I will review them with the Supremacy Council. Excellent. Morrison pulled up another display. While you are reviewing, let me show you some other Earth species you should be aware of. This is a Canada goose. Despite the friendly-sounding name, they are territorial waterfowl that will attack anything they perceive as threats. Humans generally avoid them. However, there was an incident last year where a woman in Toronto befriended an entire flock by feeding them every morning for 6 months. They now escort her to work. Of course they do, Throk muttered. This is a cassowary, extremely dangerous bird, native to Australia, which, as I mentioned, has a complicated history with avian relations. Cassowaries can disembowel a human with their claws. There is a man in Queensland who has one that visits his porch for fruit. They have achieved what he calls a mutual respect situation. Dr. Park added another image. This is a moose, extremely aggressive during mating season, responsible for more human injuries in North America than bears. A wildlife photographer in Canada accidentally befriended one by staying very still during a shoot. The moose decided she was part of the landscape and allowed her to photograph its entire family unit for 3 weeks. And this, Morrison said, pulling up footage that made Throk's scales stand on end, is a saltwater crocodile, apex predator, unchanged by evolution for millions of cycles because they are perfect killing machines. This particular one is named Brutus. He is missing one front leg from a shark attack. A tour guide in Australia has been feeding him for 15 years. They have an understanding. An understanding with a crocodile, Throk repeated. The understanding is that Brutus gets fish and the tour guide does not get eaten. It works for both parties. Kelth transmitted a private message to Throk's neural interface. Commander, I recommend acceptance. I have observed human behavior for 3 rotations now. They are genuinely excited about the prospect of introducing us to their domesticated animals. One diplomat asked if I wanted to meet her cats. Another offered to show me videos of dogs doing tricks. They are aggressively friendly in a way that is both disturbing and effective. Throk made a decision. Ambassador Kelth, inform Secretary General Morrison that the Vector Supremacy accepts the alliance terms, pending Council approval, which I will personally ensure happens. However, I have one question. Ask away, Commander, Morrison said. The child, Mira Patterson, does she understand what she accomplished? Morrison's expression softened into something the translator labeled as fondness. We sent a diplomatic team to interview her family. When asked about the incident, Mira said, and this is a direct quote, "Stripes was nice and shared his family with me, so I shared my family with him. That is friendship." She is 4 years old, Commander. She does not understand galactic politics or military strategy. She just knows she made a friend. And the honey badgers? Wildlife Services attempted to relocate them for safety reasons. The badgers returned within 3 solar rotations. They have taken up permanent residence in the forest near the Patterson property. Mira visits them weekly with her parents, who have accepted that their daughter is apparently a honey badger whisperer. The local news did a feature story. Mira is now somewhat famous on Earth. Throk pulled up the news footage. Young Mira, sitting cross-legged in a forest clearing, surrounded by 4 honey badgers while she read them a story from a picture book. The creatures appeared to be listening. One, Stripes, based on the markings, had his head resting on her lap. What story is she reading? Dr. Park checked his datapad. Where the Wild Things Are. It is a children's book about a boy who travels to an island of monsters and becomes their king through the power of imagination and not being afraid. The monsters love him and do not want him to leave. Ironically appropriate. Humans write stories for their children about befriending monsters, Throk said. We write stories about befriending everything, Commander. We have movies about befriending aliens, robots, dragons, dinosaurs, and abstract concepts. We have a cultural narrative that says anything can be a friend if you approach it correctly. Sometimes that gets us killed. Usually it gets us unexpected allies. Morrison pulled up one final image. A group photograph taken at the United Nations building. Human diplomats, Kelth representing the Vector Supremacy, and standing in front, wearing a dress covered in images of honey badgers, Mira Patterson. She was holding Stripes, who looked deeply uncomfortable but was tolerating the situation with admirable patience. We invited Mira to the alliance signing ceremony, Morrison explained. Seemed appropriate, given she is technically responsible for initiating contact. She asked if she could bring Stripes. We said yes, because honestly, after watching your hunter packs run away, we figured a honey badger at a diplomatic function was the least weird thing that would happen. How did that proceed? Stripes bit a security guard who got too close to Mira. The guard required medical attention. Stripes received an official apology from the Secretary of Defense for the guard not recognizing the honey badger's protective detail status. Mira gave a speech about friendship that made several hardened military officials cry. It was, in summary, the most human diplomatic event ever recorded. Throk looked at his tactical displays, his military assessments, his entire understanding of conquest and power. Then he looked at a 4-year-old human child hugging a honey badger while diplomats from the most powerful species in the galaxy smiled and took photographs. I need to completely restructure our first contact protocols, Throk said finally. We can help with that, Morrison offered. Step 1 is usually assess if there are any small creatures present. Step 2, do not threaten the small creatures. Step 3, if possible, offer food. Food is universal language for friendship initiation. Your species conquered your planet by feeding things? Commander, we conquered our planet by convincing everything else that being friends with humans was preferable to being enemies. We are not the strongest or fastest or most technologically advanced species you will encounter, but we are absolutely the most persistent at making you like us, and that is more powerful than any weapon system. Kelth transmitted another message. Commander, they want to know if you would like to meet Mira and Stripes personally when you visit Earth for the formal alliance ceremony. Throk considered this. Part of him, the part trained in military dominance and threat assessment, screamed that this was a terrible idea. The other part, the part that had spent 3 rotations reviewing footage of humans befriending literally everything, recognized an opportunity. "Inform them I would be honored," Throk replied. "Also, request guidance on appropriate gifts for a human juvenile and her honey badger companion." Morrison overheard through the open channel. "Commander, Mira likes books about animals and Stripes likes freeze-dried liver treats. We will have both ready for you." "This is truly the strangest diplomatic negotiation in supremacy history," Throk muttered. "Commander," Dr. Park said cheerfully, "you have not seen strange yet. Wait until you meet the woman in Florida with the emotional support alligator, or the man in Montana who taught ravens to bring him lost jewelry, or the marine biologist who has an ongoing conversation with a beluga whale using underwater communication devices. Earth is full of surprises." Throk terminated the communication link and sat in silence for a full rotation. Then he initiated a priority transmission to the Supremacy Council. "Honored Council members, I am recommending immediate acceptance of the Human Alliance proposal and complete revision of our expansion protocols. I am also recommending we establish a new military division focused on diplomatic species interaction, to be trained by human consultants. Furthermore, I am officially reclassifying humans from Level 9 threat to Level 12. The Council representative's hologram flickered with confusion. "Commander, we have no Level 12 classification." "We do now. Level 12 is defined as species with the capability to weaponize friendship and make it our problem if we do not cooperate. Threat assessment is not based on their military capacity, but on their ability to convince everything around them, including us, that alliance is preferable to conflict. Estimated probability that we can successfully oppose humans if they turn their full social capabilities against us is less than 12%. "That seems excessive, Commander." "Honored Council member, I have watched a 4 solar cycle-old human child befriend one of Earth's most aggressive predator species by sharing fruit. I have documentation of wild animals seeking out humans for assistance. I have evidence that humans cry when fictional animals die in their entertainment media and will alter their behavior based on those emotional responses. They are not logical. They are not predictable. They are absolutely impossible to defeat because they will make us care about them before we realize we are doing it." The Council representative processed this. "You believe we should ally with them. I believe we have no choice. Humans will expand into the galaxy eventually. When they do, they will make friends with species we cannot even communicate with. They will establish alliances we cannot break. They will look at impossible situations and solve them by befriending the problem. We can either be their allies and benefit from this capability, or we can be the species that got beaten up by a 4-year-old and her honey badger friends while the entire galaxy watches the footage and laughs." Silence from the Council hologram. "The footage has already spread beyond Earth, has it not?" the representative asked quietly. 17 star systems have reported receiving the transmissions. Current view count across known civilizations is approaching 2 billion. We are now referred to in most galactic databases as the species that lost to honey badgers. Our military credibility is destroyed. Our expansion is halted. And our only path forward is accepting that humans are somehow better at conquest than we are, despite using hugs instead of weapons. "Approved," the Council representative said. "Proceed with alliance negotiations. Also, Commander, you are invited to Earth for the ceremony. Try not to get befriended by anything dangerous." "That may be beyond my control, honored representative." "That appears to be beyond everyone's control where humans are involved." The transmission ended. Throk pulled up the footage one more time. Mira Patterson, sharing grapes with Stripes. The honey badger family defending the humans. Hunter Pack Vortan retreating in confusion. He had spent his entire career believing that power came from strength, from superior weapons and tactics, from the ability to dominate through force. A 4-year-old human had proven him wrong by being nice to a honey badger. Throk began drafting new first contact protocols. Rule 1. Assess for presence of juvenile beings. Rule 2. Do not threaten juvenile beings. Rule 3. If possible, bring snacks. Rule 4. Accept that humans have fundamentally broken our understanding of predator and prey dynamics, and we need to adapt. Rule 5. Never, ever underestimate anything that a human has decided to befriend. Somewhere on Earth, Mira Patterson was probably teaching Stripes to play fetch or share toys or participate in whatever bizarre activity human children engaged in with their animal friends. The honey badger was probably tolerating it with confused patience, not understanding why he was suddenly part of a family, but accepting that this was his life now. And somewhere in the galaxy, species that had been watching the footage were reassessing their own plans for Earth contact. Because if humans could turn honey badgers into bodyguards through the power of friendship and shared fruit, what else were they capable of? Throk suspected the entire galaxy was about to find out.